At the beginning of the 20th century, Chicago is one of the most corrupt and violent places in America. But in the heart of the city, a young gangster from Brooklyn rises to the top. Al Capone.
There was something inside of him that was absolutely driven. It's like a train that is out of control in motion.
In less than a decade, the ruthless gangster will create an empire, pulling in millions, eliminating all rivals, and transforming the Chicago Mafia into the most successful criminal syndicate in the country, known as the Outfit.
Al Capone's hold on Chicago rackets, and eventually rackets beyond, was extraordinary, and he had to be very smart to do that.
Capone lays the foundation for a new generation of mobsters who build a city of sin.
To the future, gentlemen.
Face off with a political dynasty.
I have the lowdown on all the Kennedys.
And cement the Chicago Mafia's place in history.
I'm behind my back talking to my enemies.
This is what happens.
The story of America's most notorious gangster starts on the streets of Brooklyn.
Take this downtown.
This is a raid. Nobody move.
Turn around. Hands on the wall.
You're gambling on a fourth out. The cops are raiding it. I thought we paid them off.
We did.
Well, then why the hell is this happening?
Mr. Tario.
I want you to get me the police chief on the phone, and I want the name of every single one of those cops.
I grabbed as much as I could.
What's your name, kid?
Al Capone.
You guys could learn a thing or two from this kid. Get out of here.
At the age of 14, Alphonse Capone starts running errands for local gangsters. But he's just one of many immigrants struggling to survive. In 1913, nearly 1 million people flood into New York City, all looking for a better life.
The immigrants that came into America, and especially New York, were coming in waves. And the first ones were the Irish. So when the Italians came in, they were viewed as low people.
For some Italians, the only jobs available require back-breaking work.
The Italians had a very difficult time integrating into mainstream American life. They were extremely diligent, very hardworking, very family-oriented, and had to try twice as hard to make it in America.
I come home to a beautiful meal, a beautiful wife, beautiful family.
Al Capone lives with his parents and 8 siblings in a small 3-room Brooklyn apartment.
Al Capone's family were very happy, very close-knit. I think you almost have to be close-knit when you've got that many people living in a little tenement apartment. His father worked as a barber and really did anything he could to hustle and feed this very large family.
Despite having respectable jobs, the family struggles to get by.
My grandfather told me that the oldest 3 would have to sleep in the same bed, and it was just a single bed. And I think that they wanted something better than that.
For many Italians looking to get ahead, there's another way to make money. New York is ruled by street gangs spread throughout the city who band together to make big profits running illegal rackets in their neighborhoods.
There were gangs who were involved in all kinds of different economic interests. The illicit activity was just overwhelming. Places where guys could go to not just drink, but to have sex with prostitutes, to gamble in casinos. And the gangs were making massive amounts of money.
Capone's been working as a runner for a local Brooklyn gang to bring in money for his family.
Kids like Capone were looking for the quickest way to get ahead. For some of them, sure, that was staying in school and trying to go to college, but a lot of people didn't have that kind of patience. They needed to make money a lot faster.
Good work, Al.
Thanks, Mr. Tario.
Capone works for an up-and-coming Italian gangster, an ex-lieutenant in New York's notorious 5 Points gang, Johnny Torrio.
Torrio was an interesting, cerebral, kind of subtle operator. When Al Capone met Johnny Torrio, he saw someone who kept a low profile and avoided the law, bribed the appropriate people, and knew how to make his way without making a lot of waves.
Using his influence and connections,
It's good to see you too, sir.
Torrio builds a syndicate of brothels and gambling houses throughout New York and Brooklyn.
Kid, why don't you take a seat?
Torrio sees the potential in Capone and takes him under his wing.
Make sure he stays out of trouble. Make sure he don't touch anything he's not supposed to touch. You understand me? At the end of every week, you reconcile the entire week, and I want you to bring those numbers to me. You understand?
Yes, sir.
Johnny Torrio, he was a mentor of Al's. And Johnny taught Al a lot about temperance and the use of his brain over brawn. He knew that Al Capone was both smart, and could handle himself.
It's really Torrio who taught Capone that this could be treated as a serious business, not just an underworld activity, but that it had something in common with running a real business.
By tomorrow morning.
All right.
Okay, off you go, you guys.
After a few years of grooming Capone, Torrio decides to leave New York for a lucrative business opportunity in Chicago.
What, you not gonna drink with me?
Hey, Al. Listen, I gotta go to Chicago for some business. It could take some time.
Okay.
Frankie here could use some help behind the bar.
Yeah, you a good barman?
Yeah?
If you need anything, talk to Frankie, all right?
Hey, you'll be all right. You got a good head on your shoulders.
Before Torrio leaves town, he sets up Capone with a powerful mobster who runs a bar on Coney Island. But he's also known throughout the city as one of New York's top hitmen.
Frankie Yale was a gunman. He was tough and rough around the edges and violent, far more volatile and hot-tempered than Torrio. He terrified a lot of people, including Capone.
Drink.
All right, kid.
Yeah, you're all right. You're good.
Capone begins working for Yale. But unlike Torrio, who worked like a businessman, Yale gets what he wants through violence and intimidation. And Capone knows that to move ahead, he has to become an enforcer.
Capone was not inherently a violent person. He was a placid person.
Not willing to cross the line, Capone loses momentum. And years later, he still works for Yale bartending.
Yeah, I gotcha. How about you, beautiful? Can I get you another round?
Sure.
What would you like?
Surprise me.
Capone was working as a bartender at the Harvard Inn and saw a girl he liked and approached her.
More often, huh?
What the hell are you doing?
We're just talking here. Relax, I said we're just talking here. Oh, yeah?
Local gangster pulled out a knife, slashing Capone across the cheek, the neck, throat, and that's how he acquired the nickname Scarface.
After getting in a knife fight, Al Capone spends months recovering.
To have a massive scar, 3 cuts across the side of your cheek, had to have been devastating. First of all, it's a sign of weakness. Second of all, he's a young man, and now he's got these big scars across his face. I think it must have been tough.
How you doing, gentlemen?
With no other options for work, Capone returns to Yale's bar and begins dating a girl named May Coughlin.
Bartending's okay, but...
Long hours, I'm guessing.
Yeah, really cute, you know?
May was a lady personified. She was very classy. And, you know, she was beautiful.
After dating for a few months, Capone learns she's become pregnant, and they decide to marry. But Capone knows he isn't earning enough to support a wife and child. So he decides that he needs to move up in Frankie Yale's organization.
You have a minute?
What is it?
I was looking for some extra work. Just wondering if you had something.
Someone calls in sick, you can have this shift.
I don't mean bartending.
What kind of work you looking for?
Whatever you want. I'll do it.
Tell you what,
There's this guy. His name's Tony Parada, and he owes me $1,500. You think you can get it for me?
I'll take care of it. Thank you.
And Capone, you come back with my money, or you don't come back.
Yes, Mr. Yale.
In an effort to support his growing family, Al Capone agrees to collect a debt from a low-level gangster.
Come on. That's rubbish. That is rubbish.
Get on here, guy. Tony Parada?
Do I know you?
You know my boss, Frankie Yale? You owe him some money. I'm here to collect it.
Tell him I'll give it to him next week.
He wants it today.
Look, I don't have it right now. But I'm working on it. All right? So get lost.
Look, I'm not leaving without the money.
What are you gonna do, shoot me? Go on, do it. Shoot me. Shoot me. Go ahead, do it. Ah! That's what I thought. You didn't...
In 1919, Al Capone commits murder for the first time.
I've hurt people, and I'm not proud of it, but a major part of that life is hurting people or killing people. You graduate to that next level.
After committing his first murder, Capone realizes that this is not the life he wants.
Al Capone wanted to be a very good man and provide the best for his wife and son. He believed that family is everything.
So he decides to make a new start and leave New York behind.
Invoices and receipts for the past 2 weeks. I want payroll on my desk first thing in the morning.
I'll get it done.
Good.
Al Capone left Brooklyn to go to Baltimore. This was his way of getting out of the neighborhood and all its negative or criminal influences. He was able to land a job at the Aiello Construction Company, which was a legitimate construction company, but was an accountant there.
Still up?
Sorry, the gin has gone cold.
It's all right.
Despite having an honest job, Capone is struggling to provide the life he wants for his family.
Thank you, Papa. You're looking sharp, huh?
In the spring of 1919, Capone holds a baptism for his son and asks his childhood mentor, Johnny Torrio, to come in from Chicago and be the godfather.
Listen,
Mr. Capone. Congratulations.
Thank you.
How you doing? How's Baltimore? How's bookkeeping?
Yeah, it's a job, right?
Right. You're doing well down here, though, yeah?
You know, money's a little tight, but we make it work. How are things in Chicago?
Chicago's great. A lot of opportunity. I like it there. You do well for yourself there. Might find something for you.
I don't know.
You gotta think about it. Hmm? Listen now.
Yeah.
I got a little something for you.
Oh, Johnny, I can't take that.
This is for the family, okay?
Thank you.
Think about it.
I will.
It was so difficult to make it in the legitimate world as an immigrant. It seemed to leave the rackets as the only path to real riches and power.
In nomine Patris et Filius et Spiritus Sanctis.
Taking Torrio up on his offer, Capone decides to move to Chicago, giving up his job in Baltimore and planning to call for his family once he gets himself set up.
I think what really clinched the move to Chicago was the fact that Johnny Torrio summoned him. If it had been anybody else, Capone might have remained in Baltimore indefinitely, but if Johnny Torrio said he should do it, then he was going to do it.
In the winter of 1919, Al Capone arrives in Chicago to work for gangster Johnny Torrio.
Excuse me. Welcome to Chicago.
Johnny, this is incredible.
What, you surprised?
No, it's just... this place is something else.
It's a bit better than what we had in New York, huh?
Yeah, just a little. Hello.
Come on, I'll show you around.
Since leaving New York, Torrio has quickly moved up the ranks of Chicago's underworld, now running hundreds of brothels and gambling dens in the city. And the most impressive is the Four Deuces.
The Four Deuces was run by Johnny Torrio. The first floor was a tavern. The second floor was a gambling hall. The third floor, a house of prostitution. And the fourth floor was his offices for the illegal activities that he ran.
All combined, Torrio's operations bring in the modern-day equivalent of $55 million a year. But he has to kick up a big piece of the profits to his boss, Chicago's most powerful crime lord, Big Jim Colosimo.
Big Jim Colosimo was certainly the most successful gangster in Chicago before Prohibition. His gang was taking in by far the largest revenues. He was diversified where a lot of the other guys were specialized. He had his hand in gambling, prostitution, in some labor racketeering, etc.
But even though Colosimo owns the largest empire of brothels and casinos in Chicago, he's still only one of several kingpins.
Chicago was a city of neighborhoods, so the businesses grew up out of the neighborhoods. Italians were mostly in the South, and there were more Irish-led gangs on the North Side.
Capone's just signed on to work for one of the most profitable gangs in the city. But soon, a decision from Washington will change the mob in Chicago forever and bring him back into a life of violence.
I've been going over these. There's a lot of money here.
There's 10 more of those to come.
Al Capone's joined up with his former mentor, criminal mastermind Johnny Torrio, managing the books for Torrio's multi-million-dollar operation.
Johnny Torrio is considered the father of corporate crime. He was very quiet, very organized. Everything that Capone learned about the administration of an organized crime syndicate, he learned from Johnny Torrio.
Working for Torrio, Capone's making 20 times what he was earning in Baltimore. But then, Washington creates a law that will change the mafia forever. On January 17, 1920, Congress passes the 18th Amendment, banning the sale of alcohol across the country in what will come to be known as Prohibition.
The thing about Prohibition that was unbelievable is you took one of the biggest businesses in the country, run by legitimate people, and you suddenly made, by definition, anyone doing it a criminal. As if you suddenly said to the underworld, now, here's the computer business, you guys run it.
Every brewery in Chicago will be going out of business. You could buy a brewery for next to nothing.
And do what? Brew our own beer?
Not just brew it, sell it. To every underground bar, nightclub, and brothel in Chicago. Us, we do it. How much do they pay for a beer now?
What, like a nickel?
Triple that. When it's against the law, they're gonna pay more for it.
You think Big Jim will go for it?
Well, he'd be stupid not to.
Johnny Torrio had the idea to go to these former brewers and to say, so you're shut down by Prohibition. How about I buy your brewery? How about I take over there? He recognized that this was a big, big opportunity.
With their plan in place, Torrio and Capone just need Big Jim's approval.
Once we get things up and running, we'll be producing enough booze to supply every one of your joints for pennies on the dollar.
A barrel that costs us $5 to brew, we sell for 45.
Sell.
That's the plan. If we move on this, we'll be selling beer to half of Chicago. Can you imagine how much money we'll be bringing in?
We'll continue to sell booze in our clubs and our brothels. But we're not making it. And we're not distributing it.
This is millions of dollars we're talking about here.
And you think you're the only one who's thought of it? Every gang in Chicago is going to be fighting for a piece of that action. It's going to be trouble. Trouble I don't need.
Well, then let us deal with it. We'll run things, and we'll split the profits 50-50.
50-50? You work for me, managing my businesses. No one in my organization is going into bootlegging. No one. Am I clear? Am I clear?
Yeah.
Now get out.
You hear the way he talked to me?
Don't worry about it. He doesn't want to do it, he doesn't want to do it.
I don't care what he wants. Who do you think runs his brothels, his clubs, his entire empire? I do, not him, me.
Johnny, you heard him. It's not gonna change his mind.
Yeah, I know. If he doesn't want to get into bootlegging, that's his problem. But he's not gonna stop us. I'm gonna do this. And I'm gonna do this with or without you. And And I need to know that you're with me on this.
All right. I'm in.
Without Big Jim's support, Capone and Torrio decide to start their own bootlegging racket, directly defying one of the most powerful and dangerous men in Chicago. Despite being forbidden from going into bootlegging by their boss, Big Jim Colosimo, Johnny Torrio and Al Capone decide to start buying breweries that are going out of business. With breweries closing due to prohibition, Torrio's able to buy them for pennies on the dollar.
Come on, guys. Let's get moving.
It's not long before they're selling their illegal booze to hundreds of speakeasies and nightclubs throughout Chicago.
Torrio was a sophisticated thinker, and he recognized that this wasn't just something that you did haphazardly, but that it had something in common with running a real business.
Within months, they've acquired 6 breweries and begin producing thousands of bottles of beer a week. But even though their bootlegging business is taking off, they still answer to Big Jim.
Show me the books.
On the left, you have the receipts.
I know how to read a ledger. What's this number here?
That's cash unaccounted for.
Unaccounted for? Why don't you just call it what it is? Missing.
I just haven't accounted for it yet.
Well, how do I know you didn't take it?
What?
How do I know you didn't take it?
I didn't.
I started as a collector. There was this guy, Georgie Spencer, and he had $300 unaccounted for. You know what I did? I took that $300 from his wallet. As Georgie bled out in the street.
I didn't take your money.
Then go find it.
Capone is convinced that Big Jim is onto their bootlegging business. Fearful that Big Jim will order a hit on them, Capone isn't sure what to do next.
There's no question that Colosimo was dangerous. If he had learned that there was a plot against his business, I'm quite certain he would have killed him himself.
We're gonna have to kill him.
You joking? Get rid of him? Sure this is the right move?
Well, he's leaving us no other choice.
I know, but still.
This is what needs to be done.
Colosimo was so powerful, Johnny Torrio felt like he had to get him out of the way. The one thing that everybody in this business knew was that if someone's coming for you, you got to take care of them first.
With Big Jim having so many connections in Chicago, Torrio brings in a New York hitman he knows he can trust, Capone's old boss, Frankie Yale.
I'm glad you could come, Frankie.
It's good to see you. And I ain't seen you since Brooklyn. You're supposed to collect some money for me, right? Ends up killing the guy.
Things didn't go as planned.
Don't worry about it. He was never gonna pay up.
Okay. I got you here for a job. The important thing is that it doesn't come back to us. Do you understand me?
Who is it?
Big Jim.
Yeah, you are crazy.
We gotta take some action here. And I need your help.
How much?
You'll get the other half when the job is done.
Tell me when and where. I'll take care of the rest.
Thanks, Frankie.
It's a very big deal in organized crime to try and kill the leader of the crime family. John Torrio was taking a chance when he decided to kill Big Jim Colosimo. If Colosimo would have found out, if something would have leaked out, Torrio would have been a dead man.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Johnny here. I got a couple of guys want to meet up with you. Discuss the business opportunity. You got some time?
Fine.
All right.
On May 11th, 1920, Big Jim Colosimo is gunned down in the lobby of his cafe. The murder shocks the city of Chicago, but with no witnesses willing to testify, the crime is never solved. years after Big Jim's death, Torrio takes control of his multi-million-dollar empire, becoming the leader of the Italian underworld and one of the biggest kingpins in Chicago.
Like most gangsters, there's two sides to being a mob boss. It's almost like being a medieval king. You have to be good at the military side. You have to be good at the violence, etc. You have to be willing to commit and send people to commit violence. And then you also have to be good at ruling. You have to run the kingdom.
Torrio and Capone use their new power to expand their bootlegging racket. And soon, they're one of the biggest suppliers of alcohol in the city. But with their raised profile, come new challenges. As they grow their operations, they begin taking more risks, pushing into northern territory controlled by their fiercest rival, powerful Irish bootleggers.
Who do you work for? I said, who do you work for?
Johnny Torrio. Al Capone.
You tell those Italians to stay the hell out of the north side.